Hello viewers, welcome to DevsOnDevs, and here with me we have today is Emotu Balogun. He's the CEO and co-founder of SendboxNG. Yeah. Thanks for being here and thanks for joining us.
I feel very welcome to this session.
To this session. All right, he calls it a session. Okay, all right. So tell us about Sendbox.ng. Tell us about it.
So Sendbox is a platform that allows users, which are merchants and sometimes customers, to basically exchange goods and services by being able to ship the items by coming on our platform and requesting a delivery from any one of the courier partners who we have integrated on the platform. So we are focusing mostly on providing the infrastructure that powers social commerce. So what we do is we aggregate logistics service providers. We also try to aggregate merchants who typically use platforms like Instagram, Facebook, and WhatsApp to sell. And we give them a platform that enables them to do local and international delivery.
Well, it's good. I know that you started Sendbox not too long after Tracklist, and you don't want to go into Tracklist now, right?
Yes.
But I've always known, you've always wanted to build something that was API-centric and API-driven, which is what I understand about the business. I know that you have people, merchants like, I think, do you want to talk about any of the merchants who has integrated to you via APIs?
So we have a number of merchants. However, most of them don't directly integrate via APIs. They have preferred to use consumer-facing applications, but we do have APIs that are available publicly for anyone who wants to build or integrate logistics into their product. They can basically use our APIs and get quotations, book shipments, and do local and international deliveries.
That's good. It's good. It's great. Great stuff. Okay, so what did you use to build it? What was the tech stack? Tell us about, the engineering behind it, and all of that. Let's shed a little bit of light.
Okay, so Sendbox is built primarily with the Python programming language. We use a number of different Python frameworks, or we have used a number of Python frameworks in the past. Currently, we use a framework called Falcon. Which basically provides us with the basic layer of REST APIs or rather REST functionality that we need to do the ins and outs of the REST calls.
So when you say Falcon, is it like Django?
It's very similar to Django, but it's focused mostly on REST-based APIs, and that's what we've built on top of, and that's where we start. Or let's say that's like the first layer amongst a number of different things. We use a microservices architecture, and what that has helped us do is we are able to split a number of our services into smaller, more focused units that let us concentrate the functionality within, let's say, relatively independent infrastructure or platforms.
Module services.
So we have that on the back end. We build with a number of different databases. Well, 3. MongoDB, Postgres, and Redis. Even though most people think Redis is just a cache,
but actually it's just a cache.
Yeah, well. But we also utilize it in terms of some kinds of let's say short-term storage. On top of that, for building towards the front end, apart from the REST APIs, we've also started building with GraphQL. And then the GraphQL layer basically helps us connect and simplify the different microservices that we're dealing with. So we use the GraphQL like an API gateway. And then all of our front end requests now come through GraphQL and talk to whatever services they need to talk to at the back. Which brings us to the front. So the front, the user interface of the application for both web and mobile are built with React and React Native. We've spent some time, trying to improve and fine tune and continue to, develop what we're doing on on the front end.
So wait, let me pause you there.
Okay.
Where are you hosting?
Yes. So, which was the next part of it?
Okay.
The next part of it is infrastructure.
Good.
Right.
Good.
So, infrastructure for us is hosted with Google Cloud.
Google.
And
hey, guys, I'm an unapologetic Google fanboy. That's why I did that. No disrespect to all the other platforms. I love them as well.
And I have to say that, in all honesty, Chuka is the one who convinced us to move to Google. We were not on Google initially, and so far it's not a move I regret. So yes, I don't know about in the future, but for now,
as at today, as he's speaking,
it's a good place.
Okay.
So for us, we use, the infrastructure for us is Kubernetes. Well, we use it. Naturally, you have to containerize all your applications. So we use Docker for that, and then build all of that and integrate everything using Kubernetes. And so far, fantastic.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Nice. So let's switch gears a bit. Tell us, how did you start coding? How did you get into coding? Tell us about some of the tools that you use, daily. I'm sure some of the developers always like to know, our seniors, what do they use? How do they do it? Tell us about it.
Okay, so for me, I've been programming now for 10 plus years. That's when I say 10 years, I mean 10 years active development, not on and off.
So you're the kind of guy they call an OG. OG. Is it OG or old G? OG.
Anyone. Yeah, so and for me, I actually started with it much earlier. I taught myself how to program. I started by, buying a few books, reading up on C++ and Java.
C++.
Yes. And the interesting thing about it is, I started by reading C++ and I didn't understand it.
Did anybody understand C++?
And it was for me, I had the motivation, but it was too abstract. And then I found Java. And then I was like, you know what? After, the first phase of the C++ and all of that, I was just like, maybe this thing's not for me. So I moved and I tried animation. I did animation for a bit, and with animation I realized that to create like a 1 minute a scene as one individual, if it needs to be good, it takes a lot. And this is 97, 98, 2000, 2001, around then. So I kind of gave up on all of that, and then eventually I found Java. And I found Java because I was interested in Linux, and I was trying to figure out how to program for Linux, and in doing so, also try to build viruses. So I started going to cyber cafes to try and figure out how do you create viruses and how do you code for Linux and all of that. And then, every chat room I enter, do you program? You need to learn programming. Okay, cool. So I know about programming. It's just that C++ thing wasn't working.
Didn't work out.
And, from there I found Java. And then in Java, I learned about all the concepts again, and it kind of made sense. So it made sense, and I started building with Java. And from there, I went into university. I paused on it for a bit until my IT years. Then, I worked hard, bought a laptop, started programming again. And from there, I got, my first job as a software developer. And I went from Java to Python, from Python, JavaScript, React, and a bunch of other things.
So if they tapped you in the middle of the night and they said, Emotu, please come and build XYZ, what's the first programming language?
Python.
Python,
yes.
Till today.
And the reason is because the last 5 years, almost 8 actually, I've been programming in Python. I've been programming in Python and JavaScript. But the JavaScript for me is usually the necessity, or I need to build a front end. Those two. But I think about the logic or the implementation and all of that in Python.
Python is actually a very solid language. So
fantastic.
I mean, it's a great it's a great language. Nobody can fault that. Nobody can argue that. All right. What advice do you have to young cats out there? I keep saying young cats. Sorry. What advice do you have to young developers out there who want to build like you, build like you, be like you, and run something like Sandbox?
Okay, so for me, I think for young developers, the thing you need to prioritize is how to find information and how to implement the information. So I've come across a lot of, young developers. And one thing I find a lot about in the way they, approach programming is that they think, you just learn the language, you understand the basics, I'm a developer. But what software development really is problem solving. So what you have to figure out is how to solve problems. The language is the implementation of your problem solving logic. And I find that a lot of times that part of it is missing. I don't know whether it's as a result of how they learned programming or maybe just their own personal, view or opinions about it. But usually when people realize this, it adds a lot to them in terms of how they think about problems and how to solve it, and even in terms of their own ability. So a good developer is not writing 25,000 lines of code that are unnecessary. If it's 5,000 lines that needs to fix it, the difference is how you think about it and what you use. So figuring out how to find information, figuring out how to solve problems are, two of the things that I think are most important for developers. The third, which I think is often overlooked, but has come to be important to me, is try to learn or experience as many different programming languages as possible.
Yeah. That is actually a very good key point. You should always, me, myself, I'm not going to talk about me. We are here for Emotu, but what he said is 10 over 10, as I'd like to say. All right. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in again for another episode of Dev-on-Devs. I know, and this is for my viewers, I know that Ire's interview was supposed to be coming through, but unfortunately, I lost the footage, simply. But she's promised that we'll do the shoot again soon, so it'll probably come towards the end of April. Okay. For the rest of you guys watching, please check out sandbox.ng, Emotu Balogun. Thanks for joining us. You guys, if you enjoyed the show, do not forget to hit subscribe. This is DevsOnDevs. I'm Chuka, Ofili, and we're out.